Hello, hello. Welcome to week 2. As people continue to trickle in, we are going to start with something that we're going to do actually at the start of every call moving forward. And this is really in preparation too for month 2, stepping into feels, which is just getting more acclimated to actually how we feel on the moment to moment, on the hour to hour, on the day to day. I feel like so often we don't actually check in with ourselves on that. So at the top of every call, as people are, coming in, we're just going to do like a quick feelings check and check in like, how am I feeling right now? And I just want you to let us know in the chat. So how are you feeling right now? One word, one feeling word that would describe how you are feeling. There is no wrong answer. Tired. Excited. Hi, Brittany. Welcome to your first live call. Hi, Kylie. So we are doing what we're going to do at the start of every call, which is a feelings check. So one word in the chat of how you are feeling right now. Let me let Zeta in. Hello, hello. If you are just popping on, we are starting off with doing a feelings check. Zeta, I know you've done this with me before, so write one word in the chat of how you are feeling in this moment. Alyssa said tired. Brittany said excited. Mine is confused, which I will say why. I out of nowhere the last couple hours, my lymph node on my right side of my neck has gotten really randomly swollen and my throat is really hurting all of a sudden. And I'm like, what is happening and why? And so luckily my tonsils are gone, so it's not too bad. But so if I'm sucking on a Ricola, how do you say it? Blah. Yeah, okay. Can you speak to a feeling? You knew I was going to ask you that. Overwhelmed, melancholy. Good. That's a feeling. Not a great feeling necessarily to feel, but so can you speak to an emotion that might be fueling the laziness? Kylie? For all of you watching the recording, I encourage you to do this as well alongside of us and just check in with yourself before you get into the meat and potatoes of this call, because it's going to be a big one today and a different one than you may anticipate, given that this is kind of my bread and butter, talking about body confidence and also about how we interact with our body. This is what I do on a one-on-one basis more than anything else. Thank you. Drained. Love it. And I have all the body confidence tips in the world, all the stuff, but we are going to be tackling this in a really different way today. So if you do not have a journal with you, a pen, something to write with, I encourage you to get that now. And also we're going to be potentially moving around depending on how this feels for you. So if you are in a space, make sure you're in a space where you're not going to be interrupted, where you can just fully be present with yourself. So last week we talked about the basics of fear. We did our exercise with our boxes, and I know a lot of you have been through a lot in the process of navigating that in the last week, and probably through that process of owning some things that were outside your box, or maybe trying to disown some things that were inside your box. A lot of fear has been stoked. Does that feel like a correct statement for you? I know some of you are like, hell yes, especially those of you I'm talking to in Voxer. How are you all feeling in terms of the fear level on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being I feel pretty damn scared right now, to 1, my fear is at a pretty low space? Where are you at? Type it in the chat. Alyssa says 5, Autumn says 7, 4 from Brittany, 6 from Kylie. Yeah, there's lots of, so we're all kind of middle high for the most part. And I just want to honor that wherever you're at is exactly where you're supposed to be. And also, we're going to start today by checking in with what we're actually scared of right now. If we were to put into words, what am I scared of right now? What am I scared of happening? What am I scared of feeling? Where am I scared I might go in this space? Whatever that comes up for you, I just want you to brain dump for the next 5 minutes the things that you are scared of. Okay? So I'm going to mute myself. If you want to put music on for this, go for it. But I just want you to honestly brain dump what you are scared of right now. You got 2 more minutes. Hi, Heather. Welcome, welcome. We are doing a quick brain dump exercise. It's in the chat, but it says, what am I scared of right now? We're wrapping up on our last minute of it, but if you just want to think about some of the things that you're feeling fear around, jot them down. That would be awesome. Okay, so start wrapping up. Even if you haven't written all the things that are coming to mind, that's okay. We're going to do a quick exercise around this, because at the start of this, I asked you to name your feeling. And fear, while it can feel like a feeling, we talked about this last week, right? The iceberg, it's really the top level thing, and there's always a second layer feeling underneath. So I want us to go through, I want to take each of you, and I want you to share one of the things you wrote down that's a fear. And I want us to figure out together what the second layer feeling that is existing actually is, okay? So Autumn, you're first on my Brady Bunch. If you want to unmute yourself.
Okay. I don't know. How do I choose? I don't know. I guess I'll go for a different answer. I had therapy today, and we kind of talked about looking forward and how I, in this next phase, am probably going to be wanting to like dig into some like trauma stuff from my childhood, digging into my relationships with my parents, and kind of dig into like why there is so much fear there. For why when I want to like make my own choices, I have that fear there. So I have a fear of like digging into that trauma.
What do you think the emotion is that's fueling that fear?
Gosh, probably like maybe like some anger, some resentment, some sadness of probably what's going to be there.
Yeah, totally. Thank you for sharing. The reason I'm going through this with all of you is because, right, self-awareness and curiosity is what the first part is, the fear. The clarity is the feeling, right? And then we can take inspired action. So this is what you can constantly work through, is why I have this fear. Okay, what's actually here? Does that make sense? Thank you for being first. Okay, Brittany, you're next on my Brady Bunch.
Okay, so one of the things I wrote was that I'm going to revert back to being a pushover or a people pleaser.
Okay, and do you think is the emotion that's fueling that fear?
Honestly, it's being a perfectionist. I just want to do the right thing for people. I don't really know the emotion that I would identify behind that, but it's just,
if you end up doing that, do you like doing that or no?
I get the gratification from it because I know people are pleased with me and that gives me good feeling. But at the same time, it doesn't always satisfy me. I just do it to avoid confrontation.
Okay. So are you trying to move away from that or towards it then?
I'm trying to move away from it. I want to be able to stand up more for myself if I don't agree with the situation or don't want to do it, instead of just going along with it.
Okay. So in that case, if you were to do it, would you, I'm just throwing out a word that felt right for me, but feel free to kind of move on it if it doesn't feel right for you. Like, would you feel disappointed in yourself if you took that step? Like, that's the feeling I'm getting.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. It's important to know why we feel, like why that fear and what the feeling is driving it, right? And so it's like, oh, well, if I move that way, I'll be disappointed. That's something we know how that feels in our body, right? And moving towards something that we feel proud, like the opposite of disappointment is proud, right? So you can even flip it and be like, okay, I want to feel proud, and that's going to help steer me towards making the decision that will move me there, right? Okay. Well, thank you for sharing. Mm-hmm. Alyssa, you're next.
Mine is telling people I'm not drinking. Backstory, I am 200 days tomorrow, alcohol-free.
I'm so proud of you.
Yeah.
And what's your feeling of that's underlying that fear of telling people?
I guess shame is kind of the thing that comes up, because like I don't even know if I'm continuing this forever. it just kind of snowballed from like a sober October into 6 months. But yeah, I mean, I've liked it so far, so I want to keep going. But I think the thing stopping me is I've not really told many people. So
yeah, shame's a big one.
yeah,
Shame's probably something that will come up for a lot of us. Thank you for sharing. Kylie.
So a lot of what I wrote down was around this topic, but I'm scared that I've now committed to myself and what I want to do with my life and my purpose and going back to school, but I'm scared that I don't have the like right educational background to get into some of the programs that I want. And being scared that I won't be good at school anymore and like all of that. So I think there are lots of things underlying under there, but definitely ones that come up are disappointment, frustration, and shame too. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you for sharing. I love how like as we've gone too, people are getting more clear. It's cool. Like thank you for those who went in the beginning were like, I don't know how to do this. That's part of this, right? Okay, Zeta, you're next on my Brady Bunch. Can't hear you. Maybe it's your AirPods. Oh.
Now can you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely had no idea when you first asked the question. So thank you to everyone else. For me, oh, okay. I heard my AirPods connect and I was like, really? Different device, so it's fine. I am like going through all these like big changes. Like I didn't introduce myself, so I'll do that later. But taking all these like really big steps towards like the life that I want. And I am afraid that once I do that, it's not actually going to be what I want once I like have it up close. And so, and like I've done like a career change and turned my life upside down before. So I'm like, ugh. And my mom was like, oh, well, if it doesn't work out, you'll just reinvent yourself again. And I was like, that is my nightmare. I don't want to do it again. So I think it's like I think there's some shame in it, but I don't really care what other people think of it. It's like just in me, like not being able to figure it out. Before Alyssa said shame, I was going to say like a combo of anxiety and exhaustion at the thought of
like kind of overwhelm if you merge the two together.
Yes, that's the word.
That's what I'm here for. Sometimes like you try words on, sometimes you try emotions on, and you're like, it's not actually fully right. And it takes a little bit to get there. So that's why we're here for each other. Thank you for sharing. And then Heather, last but not least.
Hi, everybody. Sorry I was late. Yeah, for mine, I wrote down that it's looking like I'm going to have another breakup here. So I definitely have some fear around going through the breakup and kind of having that like right after the breakup, which is always really hard, and like just kind of setting those boundaries that I know I need to set. And I think that underneath that, there's a lot of like sadness and frustration, which is like excuse me. Sorry. And he wanted to say hi. And I think probably also a little bit of like shame that like I didn't set the boundaries before. And so now it's like more drastic, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for sharing. Okay. All of the feelings you all identified. I don't love to qualify anything as good or bad, but I think as a society, we have put emotions and feelings into good feelings and bad feelings. So like I said, I don't believe in that. And we're going to unpack that and get rid of that concept, because all feelings are valid and all feelings are important. However, based off of the typical society's way of presenting feelings, all the feelings you just talked about around these fears, would they be considered positive or negative? Type furiously in the chat. Negative. Shame, sadness. I mean, you had so many different ones, right? All of them would be qualified as negative. And yet they're all things that you're actively moving towards because it feels aligned. And I just want to reframe that for you guys for a second, like really sit with that for a second, because all of you made decisions last week and got clarity around what you wanted to enter into your life. And so sometimes things happen that are out of our control, right? Or maybe we're in front of a grizzly bear, like our fear talk last week, where it's like, oh shit, this is truly a fight or flight thing. But when we're actually intentionally and consciously moving through something, even if it's hard, even if it's filled with fear, we're moving towards it for a reason. And so I want to share with you something that, and it was actually an acting teacher of mine told me a long time ago, and it's something that I carry with me all the time, and that is excitement is fear without breath. Excitement is fear without breath. And you can swap whatever positive, use positive in quotations, emotion, gratitude, joy, alignment. I mean, whatever, whatever feels good to you in that space. But I think so often we move through fear, and we often don't actually take the steps we need to take because we associate all of these really seemingly negative and hard and sludgy feelings attached to the action, instead of acknowledging that there's also a lot of really good stuff that comes from tackling our fear head on. And so why did I bring that particular phrase up? Because the last part talks about breath. And breath, which may seem so fucking simple because it's something we just do all the time, but it's also something we're not ever really conscious of unless we're in spaces like this. And when we forget to breathe, and when we forget to stay true to ourselves and create a beacon and a barrier of safety within ourselves, the fear takes over and we move in directions that aren't actually in alignment, right? We say, I want to do this, but we don't actually take the step, or we can't even identify what we want to do because we're so scared, right? And I've seen all of you actually start to identify, but now it's about how do we actually take the step in a way that doesn't feel like I'm dying, doesn't feel like I'm just having these feelings of sadness and shame and overwhelm, where I can actually feel some of that excitement, where I actually feel safe in the process of moving through my fears. Does that feel like a really wild concept, the concept of safety? That's what we're talking about today. And why we're starting with the body is because as women, we have been taught that our bodies are the one place we should not feel safe. And most of us have spent a lot of our life trying to be different in our bodies, trying to look different, trying to be a different person, dressing differently than we actually feel, right? Hating parts of our bodies, looking in the mirror, a la Mean Girls, and like picking ourselves apart. Some of us have been through experiences that have made it really hard to feel safe in our bodies. We live in a society that tells us it's not safe to be in our bodies. We experience things on the daily, and maybe not as much in quarantine, but certainly when we're out and about and there are other humans around that tell us, hey, it's not safe to be inside my body. So we're going to start creating that safety piece, because once we can start to actually trust the one thing that we have, because this is all we have, is this vessel that we're inside. This is all we have. And yet we like run the fuck far away from it instead of trying to make friends with it, right? And fear exists in the body, right? I said this in the post today, right? But it's like, this is where we feel fear. Our fear exists all throughout ourselves. And if we can consciously create a safe space to come to while we are experiencing the fear, it's not going to be so hard to move through it. It's not going to feel so overwhelming. It's not going to feel so exhausting or sad or anger inducing. Yeah, some of that will exist, but so will the excitement. So will the thing that will propel you towards taking action in the way that you know you want to. And that's the difference between people who actually move towards their fuck yes selves and people who stay stuck for the rest of their lives. That's the difference. It's, I feel safe. I trust myself. Right? Which of you in the comments, do you genuinely feel right now like you fully trust yourself? Like you feel confident in every decision you make, like you know how to get in touch with your body? It can be a simple yes or no. Lots of no's. Yeah. And that's really normal. Def no. That's really normal, right? And you're all together in this. Do you see that everyone says this? Okay, I love that. Heather says, I don't trust myself 100%, but I feel safe 100%, if that makes sense. Totally. Totally. Yeah. I'm at a point right now where I trust myself 100%. I actually know what it is to be this autonomous self that I have worked so fucking hard to achieve and get to. And yet this safety piece still doesn't fully exist because of so many years of my eating disorder. I'm working on that. And I'm on this journey with you. I will always say, like, I'm a few steps ahead, but I'm on it with you. Like that's what I'm here for. I'm not going to tell you and preach and tell you I'm perfect and I've arrived. Like fuck that noise. That's never going to be true. What is true is that we are all in this together. We're all experiencing this stuff, right? And we feel crazy sometimes because we're not taught this. We're not taught, one, that other people feel this way, that it's totally normal to not feel safe and trust yourself, because we haven't been taught how to. We've been taught how not to. So we're going to start the process of how to today. Okay. And it's going to feel really weird. And it doesn't happen in the blink of an eye. And it doesn't happen overnight. And it probably won't even happen by the end of this. If I'm being fully real, it won't. You're not going to be like fully fledged. I fully trust every part of myself and I feel so amazing all the time in my body, because that's just an unrealistic thing. But if you can get even 10% closer to that space, to that human, and start to actually trust yourself and start to actually be able to take these things that you know you want to do, acknowledge the fear and then the feeling, and then be able to move through it because you know what that positive feeling is on the other side, because you know what that thing is that you deserve to have and be and achieve and all of the things. Like that is my goal for all of you, that everything you're up against in the span of these 3 months and beyond is something you can just really simply go through this process and hold yourself through it. Does that sound good? Yeah. Okay, so we are going to do some embodiment, because to me, this is what it's all about. Always, always, always is coming back to your body, and starting with breath. Because when we can slow down and when we can remember that we are safe in our breath, that is when the magic happens. That is when we can feel the most alive. Okay. So this is potentially going to involve some movement depending on what feels good for you. And also I encourage, if you can and want to like fully lie down, like Shavasana vibes, at least for the start. Okay. So, and for those of you watching the recording, do the same. So I'll give you like 30 seconds to get comfortable, and close your eyes whenever you're ready. whether you're lying down or sitting, whatever feels the best for you. Okay, and close your eyes. Just come into the space. Notice your breath entering and exiting your body just as it does naturally. Letting yourself be. Fully allowing yourself to just be present with where you're at in this moment with all of us. No matter what your day has looked like, whether it's been stressful or anxiety inducing, or you've had a lot of work to do or a shit ton of stuff on your to-do list, none of that matters right now. This is your opportunity and time to just be present with yourself. Be present with this moment. And hold yourself. And keep witnessing your breath on its own. Just enter and exit your body as you slowly start to relax a little bit more. Notice where you feel any tension in your body. If you feel a little tightness in your neck or your shoulders from working, or maybe your hands are tight, or maybe you're clenching your butt. Just notice where you're feeling any level of tension and just notice. Be curious. Huge part of feeling safe and on the path of self-compassion and self-acceptance with our bodies is just noticing it in the first place. Noticing how our bodies move as the air enters and exits. Noticing how we mold to the floor or the bed or the chair when we give the ground beneath us our weight. Notice where we carry tension or where we feel clammy, sweaty. So much of getting to know ourselves and our bodies and finding that sense of safety, it starts with just being curious. Simply noticing, not trying to change anything, but just accepting what is. I'm going to lead you through exercise that you can continue to repeat on your own. And this is something to build a deeper awareness and also help with anxiety and overwhelm so that your mind can get a little quieter and you can come home to yourself and your body. This is something called the 5 sense meditation. So I want you to just notice something you can hear right now. Maybe it's birds chirping outside. Maybe it's someone talking in the other room. Whatever it is, really focus on that. Pick up the nuances. Really let whatever you're hearing, maybe it's just the sound of silence. Let whatever you're hearing be the only thing your mind's eye focuses on for the next 30 seconds. And I want you to then move to something you can smell. Really open up those nostrils. Maybe it's perfume or your sheets. Maybe it's your own scent. Whatever it is that you can smell, really breathe that in. Notice the texture. Do you like the smell? Do you not like the smell? Really breathe it in. Next, we're going to move to taste. So if you have the use of your tongue, which you all do, taste around and see if you can taste anything. Maybe you had something to eat before, or maybe you have a Ricola in your mouth like I do. Or if you have something nearby, you can mindfully, with your eyes semi-closed, grab it and take a sip of your tea or water and just really, really absorb what that is to taste. And then I want you to move to touch and find something around you that you can touch, whether it's your sheets or your clothing or a pen. I want you to really mindfully touch that item. How does it feel to your fingertips? What are the nuances of that item that you maybe hadn't noticed before? Really take it in. And then put that item down if you picked something up. The last sense is sight. So I want you to very lightly blink open your eyeballs and with a soft focus, find something other than my face, something in your room that you can look at and notice. Notice the colors. Notice how the light might be hitting it. Keeping that focus soft. Really observe every detail of whatever it is you're gazing on. And when you feel like you've taken it all in, close your eyes. This whole time, we have been breathing on our own because your breath moves through your body exactly as it's meant to. You breathe every day. You have that beautiful ability to keep yourself alive grounded, light, just through breath. But I want us to move into a little more conscious breathing to really let that air flow in. And this can be a little more of an intense way to breathe. So if you want to remain laying down, that's fine. Some people like doing this standing, sitting, whatever feels good to you. We're going to start with, on the count of 4, a really deep inhale in, hold for 4, release for 8, and do that twice through. And then we're going to move to the next section. So we're going to start with this conscious breath. On the count of 3, 1, 2, 3, breathe in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 1, 2, 3. Deep exhale for 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathe in on 4. Deep breath through your nose. Hold it for 4. And then big lion's breath, exhale, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Good. So the next part of our conscious breath, I want you to put your left index finger over your left nostril. If you need to look, you're welcome to look at the screen and watch me. But I encourage you to keep your focus pretty internal if you can. Otherwise, keep your eyes closed once you know what you're doing. And you're just going to breathe in really intensely and then exhale through your mouth on your own time. You're going to do that 8 times through. Keep going on your own time. Really, really big, lion, like a lion's response. And when you're done with those 8, you can switch to your other nostril, putting pressure. And deep inhale. Exhale. Deep inhale. Exhale. Good. And keep doing that for 8. When you're done, you can lower your finger, maintaining your eyes closed. Beautiful. And just come back to your breath on its own time. You've allowed space for your breath to move through you. You've opened up so much of your body and your heart. And I want you to put your hand, your right hand, over that fear center we talked about last week, and your left hand on the base of your stomach, or as where I like to say, your kind of your cervix womb, keeping your eyes closed if it feels good to you. Reason I have you put your hands here is because this is where you're going to come back to. When I asked you where you feel fear, every single one of you said either in your chest or your gut last week. And these 2 places where your hands are right now are the places that will hold you through, that will remind you of the safety and the trust you're building in your body. And anytime you're feeling stuck or overwhelmed or any of the originally quite negative emotions we were associating with fear, this is where we will come to. And you'll come to this also with the light breath, which we're going to step into right now. So I want you to picture a ball of light above your head. And I want you to think about the fear you shared with us, or for those of you watching the recording, the fear that you thought of. And the second level feeling you identified. Some of you identified sadness, shame, overwhelm, anger. And I want you to really picture that ball, and I want it to embody that feeling. So how big is the ball? How big is the feeling, right? Is it a small feeling? Is it a big ball because you have a big feeling attached to it? Really picture how big it is. And I also want you to picture what color that feeling feels like to you. That feeling of anger, of sadness, of overwhelm, of shame. What color does that feel like? Really imagine it, really picture it above your head as you're holding yourself. This is what fear embodies. And anytime you think of a fear, I want you to picture this ball above you. It can be even enveloping you. Maybe it's that big. And through the process of holding yourself as you are and consciously breathing, I want you to envision that other feeling on the other side. That feeling of excitement, of gratitude, of joy, of pride in yourself. Whatever it is that was the opposite, that is the thing you're moving towards, I want you to picture that feeling now. And with every breath you take into your belly, into your heart space, I want you to breathe into that ball. And as you fill up with that feeling, I want you to inflate that ball above your head with this new sense of trust, of knowing, and of confidence. And as you breathe in that joy or that excitement or that pride, does the ball change color? Does it change size? With each breath, witness how that evolves for you, how it feels. And I want you to envision that ball, that new ball, that ball on the other side of this fear, entering into the top of your head, moving down into where your heart exists, where you're holding yourself right now. And that ball and that light starts to illuminate and ripple throughout every cell in your body. Watch it go through your shoulder, down to your tips of your fingers, your arms. Watch it go all the way throughout your chest, your stomach, your womb, your ass, your legs, all the way to the tips of your toes. That light, that safety, that trust, it's all there. It's all within you. Because within your body, within yourself, you are safe. Within your body, within yourself, you are safe. And you can slowly lower your hands down, wherever feels right. And we're going to slowly come out of this together. However feels good. Start wiggling your fingers and toes. If you're laying down, maybe roll your head from side to side. Roll your shoulders, whatever feels good in your body. And whenever you feel comfy and ready, come back to our space. If you've been laying down, slowly get up. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. Okay. So this part of the recording, I want you to come back to this when you are feeling a lot of fear. I want you to just step into the senses and the ball of light exercise we just did as a reminder of how to get back to your embodied self. Okay. I also would love if we could all just unmute, because I would love to hear your experiences of that, because my guess is that they're all very different. And I think it would really be beautiful to hear your voices. So anyone who might want to share, you don't have to, but if you would like to share, I would love to hear, especially when it came to the ball, like what color, how did that feel? How did you envision that? And what did it kind of move to and shift to when we talked about something different and new?
Well, for me, I guess my ball was probably a different color than one would expect. I had like a bright yellow, almost like a sunlight orb. And as I kind of passed through and like let it change and grow within me, it changed to like a light white blue as I felt it going through me.
So that doesn't surprise me at all. Can I share why?
Okay, go.
So what you described as your fear was about deep people-pleasing tendencies, being this present, bright light for other people, but, you know, sacrificing yourself in the process, and more so sacrificing your voice. So it's interesting to me that that was your first, and then it moved to something more like white blue, because blue is actually the color for your throat chakra. And when that's blocked, it's because you're not using your voice the way you want to. So to me, that doesn't surprise me at all. I think that's a beautiful reflection. So thank you for sharing. Anyone else?
My first one was, I didn't necessarily picture it so like it was fairly big, but it was really like heavy. And it was the coloring that came to mind was similar coloring to like Jupiter. Like it was like red and orange, like chaos. And then when it shifted to this like bluish green kind of color, but it was kind of transparent and kind of shimmery, if that makes sense. Like you could see through it, like mermaidy kind of. So that's.
How did that feel like when it was going through your body? Is like that shimmery, because that feels like very, from like what I know of you and how we've talked the last week, like that feels very like you at your core. So like I kind of love that.
This is something that I've kind of felt like too, like even that like idea, it felt very foreign, but like also very right. The idea of trusting myself. I was never, I'm not used to trusting myself and my wants. So it was nice, and I felt undeserving a little bit.
Did anyone else feel that way? Like I should not feel the feelings of safety or trust. Like did the shoulds start piling up on that? Like I don't deserve to feel this way or to move towards this feeling. Anyone else feel that way?
It's okay if I was the only one.
Everyone's looking at me like my eyeballs are like, I felt that way a million times, which is why I asked, because I just feel like that can be a huge part of the process of this kind of work, is like, oh, I don't deserve to actually feel good or move towards that feeling of safety, because we've been, you know, programmed for so long to feel that way. I just want to reflect one thing you said, like, you've been moving with so many decisions in your life in this last week towards like this you that you're like, I never thought I could be this, or that it was like cool for me to be this. And you've like actively been taking steps towards that. So I think it's really interesting that that came up too from a color standpoint from you and a feeling standpoint. And I don't know what that means, but I just wanted, I felt like I needed to reflect that too. So maybe think on that.
I'm going to write it down and I'll come back to it later.
Yeah. You can box for me. Anyone else want to share? We have a few minutes left. Heather, I think you had,
my ball. So at first it was like a dark red, like a kind of an angry red. And then kind of as I like breathed into it, like bits of light kind of started diffusing the red. So it kind of turned into like pink, and then it got lighter and lighter as like more light went in. And it was coming from, I guess, like my heart space. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah. You also keep doing this motion, and it's interesting that you started with red. I don't know why I'm like super like talking about the chakras right now, but for whatever reason they feel aligned. Because the root chakra is like is red, and you're talking that it started to diffuse and get lighter and lighter, and then you were doing this. And it's interesting. I think that you're going from this like space of like grounding to like, I want to be more up here right now. I think that feels very aligned and reflective. I think that's really cool. Cool. Anyone else want to share before we hop off for the week? Yeah.
Mine felt like very close to my head at first when I was imagining it, and like started as like a yellowy, but then when I sat with it more, it was more orange. And then when I was like bringing the other feeling into it, it turned into like a bright white light.
I love that. I think it's interesting too, the closeness. See, and we all have very different experiences in this, right? And probably when you come and revisit this, no matter like if you're in a different place or maybe looking at a different fear, that'll show up differently too. And that's something you can do on your own, is rewatch this and take a different one of the fears you wrote down through this process. Okay. So your soul work for the week, if you want to do that, that's bonus. And I highly recommend. But the big thing I want you to focus on this week is every time you're feeling scared, and this can be a lot if you're feeling a lot of fear right now, I want you to hand in hand and breathe consciously, do the 4, 4, and 8. And that's it. If you want to repeat the words, I am safe, if affirmations are something you align with, do that. If you're like, this is caca pants, I don't like this, don't do it. Take what works, leave what doesn't. I will tell you that a million times. Not everything that I tell you is going to feel like amazing to you. Take what works, leave what doesn't. Okay. But if that feels good to you and you like the repetition of that, then go for it. Say, I am safe, but hold yourself, breathe in, hold for 4, release on 8. And I want like lion's mane release, not just like, I want like full release. Like it's going to feel weird, but that's what embodiment work is. Okay. And we're going to be doing a lot more of that in weeks to come. So I want to like prep your being and your brains now for the weirdness that you will feel, because it's going to feel weird. And that's the beauty of this work. Okay. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for all of you watching the recording. Please let us know what your balls look like and all of what your balls look like and what the process was like. I have the mind of a 13-year-old boy. This will never end. 30-year-olds? No, never. And remember to hold yourself. You have the power to hold yourself every fucking day. So I want us to just take one collective breath together like we always do. Unmute yourself real quick. Put your hands where they need to be. If this doesn't feel good, you can find another space, but this is really where I feel so much aligned. Let's all just take a deep breath in together now. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3, breathe in. Deep line exhale. Yes, Slade. Thank you for being here. Thank you for all of you watching the recording, and I will see you inside the Facebook group. Have a good night.
Thanks, Amanda.